Hello, my name is Georgia and I manage the marketing and communications for the Tea at Sunrise project. Today I am here with Minna Sunikka-Blank, who is a Professor of Architecture and Environment Policy at the University of Cambridge. And she's also on the Tea at Sunrise leadership group. So hello, Minna.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me. Could you start by just telling us a bit about yourself and your area of expertise?
So I'm at the Department of Architecture in Cambridge. I was trained as an architect, so my expertise is mainly sustainable buildings and user behavior in it. And my later projects work at the intersection of housing, energy, and gender, and also policy. So here in Cambridge, I co-lead a research network on energy, together with colleagues from engineering, business studies, and geography. And in my project, I usually work a lot with NGOs, the so-called non-traditional research partners.
Oh, wow, interesting. And so what drew you to working in this kind of area? What attracted you to it?
So first of all, I come from Eastern Finland, so I kind of seen firsthand what a big difference housing and energy infrastructure make for low-income households. And then also in the research group, when we done fieldwork in Ethiopia, Kenya, or South Africa, or India, you kind of come across this very real problem that when millions of households come to cities in rapidly urbanizing countries, how do you house them in adequate way? And how do you provide them energy infrastructure in the context of climate emergency? And what does it even mean, a kind of adequate housing and adequate infrastructure in this context?
Yeah, and a sort of follow-up question. Do you work with a lot of different people from a lot of different areas and fields then? What's your experience with that? What are the challenges with working with people from lots of different backgrounds and expertise?
Yes, I think the interdisciplinarity is a lot what's always promoted in research projects, and it's really the area I think where real innovations take place. So it's very important. It also questions your assumption, even like definitions. So I was for a long time working in a project which was entitled Energy Innovations. And at the end of the project, we kind of started discussion that even the word innovation means very different things for all of us. Right. So for geographers, it was more about the process. For me, it was about the product and all that. So I think even like common vocabulary can be very challenging in interdisciplinary projects, and you kind of lack the common academic hinterland in that. So kind of resources or references or assumptions that you take for granted might not be the same for the others.
Right. Okay, thank you. That's probably something we should take on board for Tea at Sunrise, actually, because we've got a lot of different backgrounds and things. So Tea at Sunrise is aiming to transform energy access in low and middle income countries through next generation solar. So what do you think are going to be the main challenges to achieving this goal?
So based on my recent work, what I would say the main challenges continue to be reliability and affordability of energy. And I think community solar is a very good response to that, because also in the village of Kudat, where we have built the Sunrise Oasis demonstration projects, the village now has electricity grid access, but it doesn't mean that the electricity is reliable. It's not 24/7. And also a lot of households, they don't really live in a full cash economy in the same way as we do here. So their financial means are very limited. So even if they have grid access, it's far too expensive. So the renewables can really offer an alternative to that. And also they have situations now when the people from the surrounding villages come to the solar oasis to charge their phones during electricity break, during monsoon, for example. So I think reliability and affordability continue to be the main challenges.
What about acceptance of technologies? Is that something that you see as a challenge? Have you seen that before?
I think from my experience, it's less about the acceptance of technology, but it's more like lack of knowledge or energy literacy in a way, because if you really want to use the power which is generated to fully, you have to be able to understand somehow how the batteries work and how much energy is available. So I think based on my experience, I've seen that people do accept the new technology because they see the benefits, immediate benefits, like that what they can use energy for and how it can save money if it's renewable. But it's more like getting into grips, like how do you operate with the technology? It would be exactly the same issue in the UK, I think. If you suddenly move to smart meters or PVs in your house, you can't take it for granted that people are able to be familiar with the technology. So I think that kind of training or information transfer is very important. And it might be necessary to do it with local NGOs or local community, because otherwise it just doesn't happen, which then means also the use of the technology is really suboptimal.
Okay, so Minna, why is it important to consider gender and marginalized communities in energy transitions?
So if we think domestic energy demand, it's usually women who do the household chores. They use energy for heating, cooling, cooking, and all the other chores. It also means that if the energy access is not good, or if the housing is designed in an unsustainable way, women act as the shock absorbers, right? So they would suffer from it. So in my previous research project, where we surveyed slum rehabilitation housing in Mumbai in India, we saw that the housing was actually reliant on electric lights and ventilation just to keep it habitable. But because the households couldn't pay for that, they were kind of doomed to live in the dark, like badly ventilated space, and women act as shock absorbers. So it's incredibly important that we include their view in the technology. Women are also the main users of energy in that way in a domestic settings. And also, I don't think it's also important to consider that the transitions should not accelerate inequalities, whether it's gender or other groups, but they should be inclusive. I think that's the only way to conduct them in a sustainable way.
Yeah, agreed, definitely. So the solar PV market currently is dominated by silicon, and most of that is manufactured in China. But at Tea at Sunrise, we're sort of focusing more on locally manufactured and next generation technologies. What do you think the benefits of this might be?
I think for the communities, it might increase the acceptance of the technologies. It also means they could be tailored perhaps more to local needs, and they could offer jobs. I think currently, like if I look at energy from the point of view of gender, then women are completely underrepresented in the design or manufacturing installation of the PVs. So if we had more regional focus, it could involve more the local groups and also marginalized groups in that. And in addition to that, of course, you have the obvious benefits of perhaps lower embodied carbon and all that for local manufacturing. So it's definitely would be a positive thing for the communities.
Yeah, so as an opportunity to do something different. And
Yes, definitely.
What do you hope to see achieved through Tea at Sunrise?
What I would like to see in the project, also based on the previous Sunrise project and the solar demonstration project, would be that the research or implementation doesn't stop at design or implementation of it, but there would be a monitoring phase to see what the impact actually is on the local communities. I think this is very important. And it can be very uplifting as well. So when we went back to Kudat to the village, we run participatory workshops with the people. So you see actually what difference it makes. And there were a lot of children coming as well. And they did these drawings, like where they tried to draw the solar oasis, the solar panels and all the fans. So it became part of their daily realities. I think this is very positive and motivating to see. So I think that's one thing, so that not only the technology, but also what's the impact on practice. I think the other part, which was very positive in the Sunrise project, which would be very nice to see at Tea at Sunrise, is working on these different scales, because you have all the people like developing the new PV technologies in a very micro scale. And then you have more like social scientists like me and Carol going to the community and looking at the impact on that. So you bridge all these different scales from very micro technological development to actually what it does in the community. And I think that's very important. And I think maybe also encourage different partnerships in research. So, which I think is one of the main aims of the Tea at Sunrise, to bring in businesses, also NGOs, local communities. I think it's not without challenges from my own experience, but it's really kind of effort worth making, because then you could bring the local knowledge together as well and kind of make people work together. And I think that's a really good ground for innovation.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you very much.